Lieutenant Governor, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sean. It's a wonderful day, especially now that the debate is over and this is now the end stretch.
Yeah, I want to get into politics in a second, but today we share a birthday. It's the Navy Marine Corps 250th birthday today. Oh, well, the Navy's birthday. And as you know, as a good Marine knows that, they're a part of the Navy.
Don't start, Sean. Today is not the day for that.
It's not. We are a few days away from the election. Look, new polls came out from Trafalgar. This is a dead heat. Tell me how things have changed in the last 10 days for you guys.
Yeah, but our polls have actually been much better than the mainstream media has been saying, that the Democrats been polling people who aren't even registered to vote. Think about that. Not even registered to vote. And so when you just watch what my opponent, Abigail Spanberger, has been doing, that she knows that the polls are much closer than the mainstream was saying. And now they're really having to say, well, wow, things have changed. And that's because, we have an Abigail Spanberger, someone who wants to be governor, and I thought it was she didn't have courage. I see now it's even worse than that. She's made political calculations. She's very cunning. And to have a cunning, calculating person as governor of our great Commonwealth of Virginia is worse. And so we just cannot have her. She cannot be there. She doesn't make common sense for what people really care about, which are, how much money do I get to keep because you're going to raise my taxes, which she's already said. Well, I have the energy that I need to power my business, which she only wants solar and wind. And I don't know, there's been a nor'easter come through. So what would we do then? We'd be like Maryland, where they have just green energy, by the way, and their cost of living has gone up 22%. And then finally, are you going to keep me safe and secure? Are you going to make sure that my children can walk the street? No, because she's voted to keep our borders open. She's voted for those who are illegally here, pedophiles, murderers, and rapists to stay right here. She even voted for, to get rid of the police through defunding them, as well as getting rid of their qualified immunity. So she's just not right for us. She needs to go run for governor of California.
Maybe that's your new slogan. Don't Maryland my Virginia, right? I mean,
Exactly.
All right, guys, I hate to interrupt this conversation, but if you're loving the Sean Spicer Show, maybe you want something to snack on, join me in getting a great snack in masa chips. These things are unbelievable. No seed oils, just 3 ingredients. And I'm telling you, they've got a ton of great flavors. Original, blue, lime, habanero. Oh, it's amazing. Every one of them is great. You can dip them. They're amazing. Go to masachips.com/Sean, S-E-A-N, masachips.com/Sean. Use code word Sean, spelled the right way, S-E-A-N, to get 25% off. All right, back to this great conversation. And remember, if you're watching the Sean Spicer Show, the official chip, masachips.com/Sean, code word Sean. When you ran for lieutenant governor, Terry McAuliffe had this moment where he famously now said, parents shouldn't be involved in what goes on in schools. And that really was a change in the dynamic in the last few weeks. This Jay Jones moment, these texts that came out, he is the lieutenant governor nominee of the Democratic Party.
Attorney General,
my apologies. But he threatened to kill Todd Gilbert, the then Speaker of the House, and wish a horrible, horrible feat on his wife. And
my God.
She watched, right. So how much has this moment just really changed the momentum of the race in these final 30 days?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Think about it. You have somebody who wants death, murder on his political opponent, but it doesn't stop there. He wants murder for the man's children, his political opponent's children. And they're not even teenagers. They are 2 and 5 years old. And he calls them that his political opponent is breeding little fascists. This is the man who the Democrats have given us as nominee for Attorney General of our great Virginia? Don't think so. And then here is Abigail. How will you govern? Well, are you only supporting certain people? Are you just disgusted by murder, or are you going to do something about it? How will you be? We don't have to wonder. We know now. And that's why people are saying, wait a minute, hang on. Who is Abigail? You know who she is? She has lived a very carefully curated, very, very curated, very cultivated kind of life. I don't know many people who have lived that way. We live in the real world. Real things are happening to us. And you can see her almost plotting every step of her political career. She's going to do this for this many years, and she's going to leave and do this and do this. She's sort of Manchurian candidate type of esque, but without, she's just, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. When I talked to Robert Cahaly, who is the chief, the president of the Trafalgar Group, the polling outfit that shows this race at dead heat. And I said to him, what advice would you give the Republican ticket? He said the movement is particularly strong among older people, 65 plus. They're watching TV. They see this Jay Jones stuff. They've watched Abigail Spanberger refuse to ask him to get out of the race. So this is working well with older Americans. He said less so with younger Americans, younger Virginians who don't get their source of news from TV and the legacy media. He said, I would advise them to go strong on digital and strong on influencers. What have you guys done tactically different in the last 10 days to really get the word out about Abigail, her relationship with Jay Jones, her refusal to denounce and ask him to step off the ticket?
So let's not forget that it's not just Jay Jones himself who has that issue and her support and continued support of him, but it's Abigail herself. Abigail has said, even after Charlie Kirk's murder, she continues to say to her supporters, let your rage fuel you. Fuel you to do what, Abigail? Fuel them to come against me? Fuel them to come against my supporters, my side of the political aisle? Is this what a governor wants to do? And by the way, have you noticed that her supporters, they keep coming out with big signs that say 8647? Why are you, what kind of a people are you leading? Who are your followers? And when are you going to tell them, get rid of those signs? But we know, again, she doesn't have, and it's not political courage, it's calculating. She's a calculating person. So what we have done is, now that we have more money, and by the way, let me tell you, we're raising money. I'm seeing people sending in $3 checks, $3 checks. They're the grassroots. They're the people who can't afford to help me, except they want to do something. And I'm looking at $3 and $4 checks and $5 and $10, and we're raising so much money that way. So now that we have the money, we're able to do even more streaming. And we've been cutting parts of the videos from the debate to show people this is who she is. Believe her. She will not protect us. She doesn't have the right ideas that have gotten Virginia where we are today, which is our economy is great. We're creating all these jobs. Jobs are flooding in, and we're protecting your right to work and not be forced to join a union, which will destroy our economy. Look at what's happening in Maryland. They have increased their taxes twice now, when they were left by a Republican governor with a $3 billion surplus. Now that they have a Democrat as governor, they're more than $3 billion in the hole. My opponent has said she's going to get rid of oil and gas in Virginia. And then what? Where is the energy going to come from? She knows nothing. She doesn't know how to do this. I am ready to take command on day one. I've been doing the work. Abigail, where have you been?
The interesting thing is, speaking of Abigail, and you talk about her cunningness and calculation politically, in 2019, I believe it was, there were photos of then Governor Ralph Northam that came out that showed him either in blackface or a KKK outfit. We're still not entirely sure which one and how this all went down. She was quick to say the governor needed to step down then. A sitting governor had to sit down.
Yes.
But when Jay Jones, the attorney general nominee that she's endorsed, talks about actually killing a political opponent and wishing ill will on his family, she hasn't done it. You talk about how cunning she is, how calculating she is. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, because she wants to win. And she's thinking, if she tells Jay Jones to get out of the race, well, she's going to upset these people over here. And if she tells him to stay in the race, then she upsets these people over here. She's caught between a rock and a hard place. But you know what? That's what being governor is. Issues don't come very carefully packaged and you address this one today and then tomorrow another issue shows up where you have to show, well, not Cunning certainly, but what's best for Virginia. And instead, no, you have a lot of issues coming back and forth and problems, and what are you going to do? And you got to address them. And you know what Abigail does? She figures out what's the best thing for Abigail. That's what
So
Abigail does.
let me give you my theory, because you said this group over here, this group over here. And as I thought about that, just from a political standpoint, I realized what she did when Governor Northam was in blackface. He had obviously offended a lot of Black Virginians, right? Who found it offensive what he had posted this photo in his yearbook. And so she wanted to make sure that she was in good with them. And I think, and this is just my sort of, as I look at the through line between these two events, and I say, wow, if she asked Jay Jones to step down, who is the Black nominee for Attorney General, it seems like that might offend, that group as well. So to me, the consistency is that she is afraid of offending a key constituency of the Democratic Party right now. Do you agree with that?
I'm trying to figure her out, and I'm not really sure where she is just because of her cunning and calculation. She's figuring something. She's figuring something. I'm not sure what that something is, but see, that's the problem. You got to make the right choice, and it's always the righteous choice, and it's very hard to do. And I've had to have that in my own life, and so have you. And then you've got to take your hits. You've got to take the hits. It's just the way things are. But, you got to live with yourself when all is said and done. And your conscience, you try to have it clear as possible. She knows what the right thing to do. And the right thing is to have him leave the race. But she won't do it because she's afraid of some faction, some part of her party. And my God, we cannot have a calculating person like that as governor of Virginia.
Well, it's interesting because there's another big issue that you've been probing her on. That's men in women's bathrooms, boys and girls sports. She was asked about this. I think you've really put her on defense on this issue. I want to play a few seconds of a clip to show the audience like how she was responding to this, because you put it out on Twitter. I want to play this for folks, just a few of the seconds to show how she responds when asked about this. Take a look.
What do you make of Earle-Sears' claim that you're fine with, quote, putting men in girls' locker rooms?
The reality is that the federal government has the ability to change the letter of the law, right? Through Congress, through the Senate, bills go to the president's desk. Right now, what we are seeing is there are differences between what is the law of the land under Title IX and what are executive orders put out by the White House. And in circumstances where there are conflicting evidence or conflicting interpretations, the reality is the federal government has to be clear in what is the real guidance available to our schools as it relates to use of locker rooms. The reality is that we have multiple jurisdictions who believe they are following the letter of the law and have their lawyers conveying why. And at the end of the day, we have a president of the United States who is taking away and threatening federal funding.
All right. That's enough. I mean, you get the point, but that to me is what I'm going to call a Spanberger salad. I thought Kamala did them really well. Abigail Spanberger clearly knows how to create a word salad now better than anybody. That was to me a non-answer of the highest proportion.
It's a simple answer. What she's doing is throwing responsibility back on everybody else when this is a matter of plain decency and privacy. And it's a yes or no. Do you believe that boys belong in locker rooms nude with girls nude? Do you believe that? Is it fair that girls are having to, play against boys, in violation of Title IX? It's a simple answer. And then if she can't even make that leap, do you want your girl children being forced to undress in front of men, in front of boys? If you can't answer that question, then there's something wrong with you, Abigail. There's really something wrong. And I don't understand why you can't just come out and take a stand. My God, just stand for something. She's so mealy-mouthed. She's so calculating. Stand for something, Abigail. But we know she has because she voted. She voted for men to be nude in locker rooms with our girls, with our women. That's what happened in Arlington. That's what has been happening in Fairfax. Pedophiles have come in. And by the way, it's not just there in Albemarle County. The girls, the high school girls, have put online a petition to say they don't want boys in their bathrooms, because what they're saying now is that the boys are just walking into their bathrooms and just staring at them, having conversations with them in their bathrooms. Abigail, do you not care?
So, in the last week or so, 2 illegal aliens that were released into Virginia because of the Biden Spanberger open borders policies fired on Virginia police. How big of an issue right now, as you go around the Commonwealth, is illegal immigration?
Oh, absolutely it is, because what we did, we found the number 3 MS-13 gang leader right here in Virginia. He is in some form of deportation to be gone back to his home country. We have found Chinese Communist Party gangs here. We have found African gangs. We have, you name it, cartels. We found them here. 4,000 of them. We're talking about rapists and pedophiles and murderers and drug dealers and all of that. They're in some form of being gone. 4,000 of them. But had Abigail and Biden voted to close our borders, we wouldn't even be talking about this. But all of that open borders fentanyl streamed across the border, and it killed over 20 Virginians every month. And that's just the ones we know of. And then we know that child sex trafficking was happening. We know that rapists and all of that were happening at the border. This woman cannot be trusted to be our governor, to take care of us in the form of keeping us safe, in the form of creating jobs, in the form of making sure our own taxes stay in our pocket. She just doesn't care. I think Abigail is simply for Abigail.
So as we head into these final 30 days, we just listed off boys in girls' bathrooms, immigration, the Jay Jones issue. Obviously, we're in day 13 of a government shutdown. What is probably the biggest issue that you see in your polling that's driving people in these final days from her to you or undecided to you?
Right. So it's all of what you've been saying, but I think even more so, it's that the debate woke people up. They saw a side to her, again, a very calculating side, a very aloof side, a very I don't really care about you side. I mean, because she wouldn't even acknowledge me. I'm turning to her to talk to her. Abigail, she doesn't say anything. She stands there. And then there were so many times when she had a smirk on her face, a smirk, as if, I don't, I'm above it all. I don't really care. Well, that's not how we elect our leaders. We elect our leaders from among us, not from above us. I've seen that in other countries. We don't worship our political leaders. No, you answer to us. I've been gone from politics for 20 years, Sean. I didn't come back to be mealy-mouthed. I don't really care about the politics of it all. I want to know, do you care about me? Do you see me? Do you hear from me? Do you care to hear from me? I mean, again, I started a men's prison ministry, led it for 2 years. I mopped the floors at a homeless shelter, of course, because I was also a director there. But I've also mopped the floors at a food pantry. I'm not doing these things because I thought one day I'd use it in my politics. Sometimes you see politicians waiting to get into office, and then they say how kind they are, and they start visiting these places. I did that long before. I just want to know what's in Abigail's heart.
Yeah, you mentioned the money and such. Like, who are the outside groups and resources of the party? What are they doing in these final days? RNC, Republican Governors Association. What are you seeing on the outside come in now to really help get you over the finish line?
Yeah, so RGA, the Republican Governors Association, they have come forward, and then there's some outside groups that they're working on, their side of what they're doing. And I have stood up what we call a victory campaign, because that's what you call it, at the Republican Party of Virginia's headquarters for the whole ticket, and so we're knocking on doors, we're sending out mailers, we're making phone calls, we're writing letters. We're doing everything that we know to do, and we're not we're making sure that no one's duplicating efforts, because we can't afford to do that. If we knock this door, we don't need you to go there. We need you knocking on other doors to make sure everybody's hearing the message. And we're just doing it all. So if you need a bumper sticker, please get to winsomesears.com or winsomeforgovernor.com, get a yard sign, get a bumper sticker, help us, because our win is our win. It's not a win for me. It's a win for all of us, because I want to live in a Virginia that cares. I want to live in a Virginia where the governor sees me, where the attorney general will fight for me, and where the lieutenant governor will uphold the principles of Virginia.
We're in the middle, as I mentioned, of a government shutdown. Is that affecting your campaign, either the ability to reach people negatively because they're blaming Republicans, whatever? I mean, but in Northern Virginia in particular, where there's a lot of government employees, and then obviously in the Hampton Roads area, where we have a big military presence, are you seeing the effects of the shutdown on your campaign at all?
No, because you see, Abigail, all summer, she's been using federal workers as her very own political football in a game she's playing that she loves federal workers more than anybody else. Well, as I said, what love looks like is to keep federal workers in their jobs because they have bills to pay. And I believe last week was the last paycheck that they received. And now they're in a shutdown where the money isn't coming in. Love means that she must tell Warner and she must tell Kane, our two senators here in Virginia, go do your jobs. Go do your job and keep the government open by making sure federal workers are in their jobs. That's what love looks like, Abigail, and you've not done that. You said you love them enough to make sure they stay in their jobs. That's what it is. And you and I are military people, right? We're veterans. And especially in the enlisted ranks, which I was, we need our money. It is terrible that we have our military folks, and I've seen them now, they're lining up at food banks wanting to get food. And yet they're there to protect us? How could we do this? Abigail needs to tell her side of the political aisle, the Democrats, stop playing games and trying to one-up Republicans. Republicans have voted to keep the government open, and we just needed 7. We needed 7 Democrats, senators, to say, I'm going to do that too. I think we're down to 5 now. We just need 5. Can we get 5? Can we get 5? And two of those are from Virginia.
Last question I want to ask you. I spoke to the president in the Oval Office the other day, asked him about support for the Republican ticket in Virginia. He seemed kind of non-committal. Have you had any discussions with the president or the White House about getting the president in to support you in the ticket in the final days?
So we've had conversations. I mean, think about it. I'm from a third world country. And for me to be in this position, I mean, it's only God. Only God has gotten me here. And here I am in the White House, in the Oval Office, and I'm just like, wow. And so the conversations I've had with the president, they're going to have to stay confidential.
But are you guys asking
for
them?
We welcome his endorsement, of course.
Okay. So you guys would you want a rally or something like that in the final days?
However the president sees fit. Yes.
Yeah. And last, because when you touched on your faith, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I noticed personally a lot of people going to church, to mass for the first time ever. As you travel the Commonwealth, are you seeing young people either get involved, go to church, get more faith involved? How is that sort of really taken hold? Because I think a lot of people want to get involved, and they said, if I live in New Jersey, I can get involved. If I live in Virginia, I can get involved.
Yes.
Have you seen it on the ground?
Yes. I think that all of us are charged to make the darkness tremble. We need light in our lives. And so that's why when I was asked during the debate, what do you think about unforgiveness? It eats you alive. We don't want to live that way. And so Charlie wanted people to forgive. And so that's why, God bless her, his wife, Erica, said we must forgive. And I think our young people are seeing that they must take their place in society. They're coming up the hill, and it's their charge now.
Yeah. Listen, thanks for coming on. Get out there. I was with her the other day, guys, and I think I showed up at this event at the end of the day, and she'd been 17 stops already. There's no one that's working harder right now to keep the Republican conservative message alive than Winsome Sears. I know you got a million things probably on your agenda today. Good luck. Stay safe in these final days, and let's pull it over the top. I think this is going to – I'm so excited for election night. I think you and the entire ticket's going to win, and then Jack Ciattarelli's going to win in New Jersey as well. Big night ahead for us.
Thank you.
You bet. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.